With the Acolyte series just around the corner, speculation has never been higher in regards to the Sith Lord and their role in the show. And I believe their face has already been shown in the trailer. So throw on your Sith robes, ignite those lightsabers as we dive into the mysteries of the dark side and where this all fits in within current Star Wars canon. Now, this video does dance in the world of potential spoilers, so here's your heads up. Remember to leave a thumbs up on the video if you enjoy it, and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to catch more. Now, let's get into the Sith enigma in the Acolyte.
What is that?
The Acolyte is set at the tail end of the High Republic era, a period rich in lore that's been explored through Star Wars TV shows, novels, and comics, but never before in live action. During this era, the Galactic Republic thrived, and so did the Jedi Order. At that time, there were about 10,000 Jedi scattered across the galaxy, trained at outposts from the Galactic Core all the way to the Outer Rim. These Jedi weren't distant legends, they lived among the people, interacting with civilians and actively combating crime and injustice. Now, interestingly, the Jedi Order was more accepting during this period. They allowed older recruits under certain circumstances and didn't outright forbid attachments. The High Republic era spanned from 500 BBY to roughly 100 BBY, placing the Acolyte near the end of this golden age in the Star Wars timeline. However, what precisely brought about the decline of this era still remains uncertain. None of the existing High Republic content has covered this pivotal moment just yet. However, the Acolyte promises to shed a degree of light on this transition. It will reveal the events that led to the era of the prequel trilogy and the transformation of the Jedi Order. By doing so, it will highlight the differences between the two versions of the Order and directly address the flaws that ultimately influenced Anakin Skywalker's path. We all know the Jedi Order wasn't perfect. Some of its practices inadvertently contributed to the rise of the Emperor and Darth Vader. Now, as we journey from the Acolyte all the way to Revenge of the Sith, we'll witness this crucial chain of events unfold. Despite the fact that the Acolyte seems to follow the journey of a Sith Acolyte, it's important to note that during the time of the High Republic, the Sith were believed to be extinct. They posed no visible threat to the Jedi, their numbers so scarce that they flew completely under the Jedi's radar. With the Sith presumed destroyed, the Jedi focused on other galactic dangers. However, this lack of attention, or even foresight, may well lead to the beginning of the show. The trailers have tantalized us with glimpses of a mysterious figure wielding a red lightsaber, facing down an entire group of Jedi. Now, speculation about this villain has already begun. Cloaked in darkness, this Force-sensitive individual wears a distinct yet eerily familiar helmet. And no, I'm not thinking Venom here. Striking fear into the hearts of the Jedi who oppose them. The Acolyte unfolds in 132 BBY, a century before the events of Episode 1. Now, that film provides much of our knowledge about the Sith during this era and serves as the foundation for the High Republic overall. In The Phantom Menace, the Jedi Council makes specific remarks about the Sith when presented with Qui-Gon's testimony. When Darth Maul's existence is brought to their attention, Master Ki-Adi-Mundi boldly claims the Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
Impossible. The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
Now, this assertion stems from the events during the Old Republic era, a time characterized by wars between the Jedi and the Sith, and at the era's close, the Sith were ultimately defeated, leading Jedi to mistakenly believe they'd vanished forever. However, after the Sith's devastating defeat at the hands of the Jedi Order, only one survivor emerged, Darth Bane. His significance reverberates throughout the entire Star Wars timeline, for he initiated a radical shift within the Sith. Darth Bane founded the Baneite Sith, a tradition that defied the Sith's previous grandeur. Instead of sprawling legions, this new order involved only 2 Sith at a time. They call it Darth Bane's Rule of 2, and it rests on a fundamental truth: Sith will always vie against each other, often to their own detriment. Now, under Bane's rule, the Sith will train each other in the dark side's malevolent arts. The apprentice hones their abilities until they inevitably rise, slay their master, and seek out an apprentice, and the cycle continues. This largely unbroken lineage eventually leads to the likes of Plagueis, Sidious, and Darth Vader during the Imperial era, an era fueled by amassed Sith power and intricate plotting. However, it's worth noting the High Republic, the golden age of Jedi valor and galactic exploration, conceals secrets darker than the void between stars. While the official canon whispers of the Sith remain hushed, the ancient texts of Star Wars legends illuminate their malevolence like crimson lightsabers in the night, referring to legends which the show does take into account. Two main Sith Lords are present during this period and could very easily slot in. The most likely being Darth Tenebrous, born in the High Republic era. He wielded unbelievable power, yet his true mastery lay not in the Crimson Blade, but in the cold calculus of manipulation. Tenebrous, a starship designer by day, wove the fabric of destiny by night. If the big Sith Lord of this era appears during this show, following legends it would have to be Tenebrous. However, we've also got the apprentice Darth Plagueis. Now, his existence straddled the legends and the canon, a bridge between worlds. Plagueis, a master of life and death, saw immortality through forbidden arts. His hands, stained with ambition, would eventually throttle his own master, Tenebrous, in a silent coup. The cycle continued as Plagueis took his own apprentice, the puppeteer who would orchestrate the fall of the Republic itself, Sidious, known to the galaxy as Emperor Palpatine. But just how do these two characters, which up until now are featured mostly in legends, play a part in the Acolyte, especially when you take into account the fact that their rather large heads wouldn't actually fit into their helmet the mysterious villain is wearing in the trailer? Well, here's where things can get a little spoilery in regards to who the Sith villain actually is. And for that, we need to turn our attentions back to the two official trailers that were released and focus on a character that's largely flown under the radar up until now, and that is Qimir. Now, on the Star Wars databank, he's described as a former smuggler who now makes his living as a trader, procuring unusual things and enjoying a life of leisure. Okay, so enjoying a life of leisure gives me the impression this guy's pretty well off in the grand scheme of things. A trait also associated with other Sith Lords of Star Wars past and future and present, whatever you want to call it. But part of what's interesting about this character, and what leads me to believe he's a Sith Lord under the mask, is the fact he actually speaks part of the Sith code in the trailer, peace is a lie.
In the name of peace. But that peace is a lie.
Where he's meeting with the suspected Sith Acolyte May. However, this alone isn't enough to draw the conclusion that he is the Sith Lord. I believe the persona of Qimir is effectively just his day job, as so many Sith have held in the past when they haven't dominated the galaxy, such as Tenebrous himself, who was a ship designer, Plagueis, who was the leader of a financial corporation, or even Palpatine, who served as a senator. Qimir appearing as a wealthy trader is likely just the disguise. Now, it's at this point where I remembered some old Acolyte rumours that surfaced before filming of the show had even begun, some of which still line up today, to be fair, with what we've come to see in the trailer. And there was a mention of a Sith Lord in the show, which points towards this masked figure not being another dark side Force user altogether, or let's say an early Knight of Ren, but actually a full-blown Sith Lord. And in these rumours, the Sith Lord's day job was the supply of weapons to the people of which May and her sister Osha hail from, which isn't a far stretch when you think about it from something a trader would do, given they likely come across a variety of weapons on the market. After all, no business is more profitable, especially in Star Wars, than war. Now, the big question is whether Qimir is the master or the apprentice, and isn't another Sith Lord running around during this era going to go against what's already been established in regards to the Sith? Well, we need to consider the possibility that just because Qimir is a human male, it doesn't have to mean he's going to be a new Sith Lord introduced to the canon altogether. There's also a possibility that he could indeed be Darth Tenebrous. Right, now I know what you're thinking, hear me out. Although Darth Tenebrous was established as part of the Biff species in Star Wars Legends, as of yet his species within current canon hasn't been confirmed, it's not been brought over, and with the Biff usually associated with the comedic Cantina band, we can't rule out that they wanted to dissociate one of the most powerful Sith Lords of all time with the comedic Biff species. It's totally possible that Plagueis is yet to become Tenebrous' apprentice in the show at this point in the timeline, as his story within Star Wars Legends doesn't give exact dates he joined Tenebrous or anything like that, only rough years. So what Tenebrous could be doing here, if it's indeed him, is he could be recruiting acolytes across the galaxy that will go on to compete with one another with the view of him taking on one of them as his next apprentice. And to be honest, he could also be doing this even if Plagueis is already at his side during the show, as in Legends he is known to have broken the rule of two, where he was secretly training another apprentice behind Plagueis' back. However, this happens much closer to the events of the Phantom Menace than the Acolyte. But we could also put Qimir down as the apprentice to Tenebrous himself, as with the Sith natural of order of things, it would be expected of Qimir to one day rise up and slay his master Tenebrous, taking his place as the Sith Lord of the era. And then he would also need to go on and recruit his own apprentice himself to train him. And maybe that's what we see him doing with the Acolyte, or even Acolytes in this show. Regardless of if the Sith Lord ends up being Tenebrous or not, he's sure to be attached to him one way or another. As of today, I'm firmly in the camp myself that Qimir, Manager Kinto's character, is the Sith behind the mask, possibly as Tenebrous himself, or perhaps an apprentice of his, with the identity of Qimir likely being a public image. During a time where the Sith are trying to avoid detection, I feel the Acolyte, and there could be more than one here, are all vying for the position of stepping up to become his full-time apprentice. Let's not forget, if Qimir isn't the master himself, then the natural order of the Sith would be for him to overthrow his master, which would then be Tenebrous, so perhaps he's planning ahead with his own apprentice now. As always, I'm interested to hear your thoughts, theories and wildest speculations on this down in the comments below. Give a thumbs up to the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you want to catch more. I'll see you in the next one. May the Force be with you.